Football with friends is fun as hell. My name is Alex Dunlap here with Cody Carpentier on a really the biggest Thursday. It's Christmas for us. It's the NFL draft. It's finally here. We have a ton of Texas Longhorns going in this thing. We're going to do a quick preview here of round one. We'll be back tomorrow with a wrap up of round one and a preview of round two that we might be doing live here on the channel during Anwar's slot, or it could be a little bit after. We're not exactly sure, but make sure and stay tuned here on Orange Bloods Live. We'll have you covered with the NFL draft stuff and getting, just Cody here, ready to celebrate, man. It's our day. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. It's this oasis in the middle of the football desert that we call the NFL draft.
It's exciting, and it's interesting because our dynamic with covering the Texas Longhorns while also having completely basically different version of the same sport at Roster Watch, covering the draft every single day, and now all of a sudden Texas has 12, 13, 14, potentially 15 draftable players. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys come off the board. Sounds like you'll get some previews and some reviews of most of the picks here on the Orange Bloods channel. So I think, what do we start? We're going to start out with just the general draft thoughts, or kind of where we think these Longhorns are going to go. Or what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I mean, just a quick note. So this is being pre-recorded a little bit ahead of time. So if something happens where Chicago trades up to 5 with the Jaguars, or who knows what might happen in the hours leading up to the draft. But we'll just talk about it from the perspective of kind of where some of these Longhorns might go, what we're expecting, what possible landing spots, and just general thoughts on the draft. I figured maybe we could start, since it's the first round tonight, kind of level setting here, or I guess setting the expectations here about how many Longhorns could go. I think it's basically a 100% chance that we see 3 go tonight.
I think I like the idea of 3. We've definitely seen a lot of the helium of late come to Kelvin Banks, which kind of we consider the flat circle, right? A guy that was once here in the top 5, top 6, top 7 conversation. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, he's going to fall to the 20s. For what reason, we don't know. And now we come all the way back and we see some mock drafts from, the great Todd McShay, who is like not the biggest fan of Kelvin Banks, plugs him in at 6 in his mock draft yesterday. It's like, well, okay, what do we do with this? And then you have a guy like, Peter Schrager, who's generally done pretty good in all of these mocks, and he's got Banks locked in right there at 14 to the Bears, but the Bears was on a trade back. So technically the Bears are at 10. So it's like, we're now kind of getting back to this conversation where, Banks deserves to be there. Jahdae Barron was kind of the inverse, right? We've heard a little bit about the Jets. They're at 7, but I think we're both in kind of the same kind of thought process that the cornerbacks, Jahdae Barron, Will Johnson from Michigan, probably going to fall to the late teens after a lot of these edge rushers. And then I think Golden, obviously everyone talked about the Dallas Cowboys side of things, but there's kind of a good handful of landing spots for him from 12 to 30. I'd say 30. So Banks, man, he's going to be the first guy off the board, right, for Texas?
Well, if you go by so right now we have on DraftKings, Kelvin Banks is sitting currently at 13.5 as far as his draft position. 13.5 sandwiches him right between the Miami Dolphins and the Indianapolis Colts, with major juice on the under 13.5 now. So I think what the sports books are telling us is that 13 to Miami is probably the spot that might be like his ceiling, as far as where I don't think what I'm saying is I don't think he gets past 13 to the Dolphins, with there being a legitimate chance that he could go to at 11 to the 49ers. He could go at 10 to the Bears. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility that he could go at number 9 to the Saints. You'd probably have to play him. You probably have to play him at right tackle.
People seem pretty open to that, though. Like that was McShay's whole theory. He's like, you can plug him in at right guard or right tackle this year, and then Colton Miller with the Raiders will be gone next year potentially, and it could be a short-term answer, long-term asset at left tackle.
Then you could also, the Jets, we have them taking I personally in my mock have them taking Armand Mimbu, but they're going offensive tackle there as far as what I projected. Now it's different because they have their their need is right now specifically right tackle, but they could take Banks. It wouldn't be completely out of the question. And also the Raiders. I mean, McShay slid him into the Raiders and said that John Spytek, the new GM there, like he's a real big guy on character and class and stuff. And anybody watching this show right now knows that Kelvin Banks is one of the guys who really epitomizes that on this football team, and a guy who they could really like for what he brings to the locker room, as well as just being a really good player. So, yeah, I think the 13 for him is kind of the, 13. It's like 13 to the Dolphins just makes all the sense in the world, because you figure they just lost their starting left tackle, Teron Armstead,
Yep.
and he's good. Like he's done playing football. So I think to myself, how can they not go offensive tackle here if Banks were available to them, even if and they would go offensive tackle even if Banks weren't there. They'd probably take the Ohio State guy, Josh Simmons, or something like that, simply because you can't you 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 can't make Tua Tagovailoa's protection worse if you're trying to keep him upright and make all the jujitsu training in the world and learning his break falls and stuff like that. It's not gonna be helpful to him in preventing all these concussions if he doesn't have any kind of semblance of protection, and they just lost the one in the offensive line who's best at it. So I,
So
I don't think that Kelvin could possibly get past 13, but I wouldn't put it. I think I I think he could go to the 49ers or the Bears too, man. I think that those two, I think 10 and 11 is super live as well. So all this cockamamie nonsense about him falling into the 20s, as usual, the draft's a flat circle. We're right back to where we started. He's going to be right on the fringe of being a top 10 pick.
the Miami Dolphins' last 3 first-round picks have all had a 9.5 or better RAS score, relative athletic score. You can find those up on Twitter or RAS.com.
If you can learn how
9.5
to navigate that website, man.
9.5 or better. That's Chop Robinson, Austin Jackson from USC, and Noah Igbenogany from Auburn. All 9.5s are better the last 3 years. For Kelvin Banks' conversation, I didn't realize it was this high, but he's got an 8.25 RAS score.
That's higher than I would have thought for a relative athletic score for Kelvin.
I thought it was going to be like 6.5, 6.5, something like that, So, but he's in the conversation there. So I think that has merit. So again, you haven't officially plugged this in yet. We're pre-recording this a little bit early. But currently you have Golden and Jahdae Barron falling to the mid-20s. Are those your floors? You have Barron to the Packers and Golden to the Rams unofficially. You get close to the finish line here, but it's technically unofficial when we're talking, so it could be different. But you have Barron to the Packers and Golden to the Rams. Do you think this is the floor? Because personally, I think the floor for Golden is like Rams or Commanders, and Jahdae Barron, I think the floor is Packers or Vikings.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Would I be surprised? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see. I think I would be a little bit surprised with the. What do you think about the Jahdae Barron at 7 stuff? Aaron Glenn, new head coach there. There was some talk that even though they've been attached to the Jets have been attached to Armand Mimbu from Missouri, the right tackle, the tight end Tyler Warren from Penn State have been kind of the two that have gotten the most juice, right, and the most play around there. Position needs, blue chip or blue chip-ish players. I know that Texas fans will be like, "What do you mean? Jahdae Barron's a blue chip. He won the Thorpe Award and all this." But the fact of the matter is, with Jahdae Barron, he's got there's some issues with his length. What is it, Cody? 29-inch arms?
Not the longest.
28 something. I forgot what it was. Like, people worry a little bit about that, and as far as outside corner, it's a little bit worrisome. But with that being said, I've always wanted to stick with my convictions with this mock draft, and my convictions with this mock draft is that people are tilted about passing on Brian Branch and passing on Cooper DeJean and these types of players that they're like, well, he's versatile, but is he a corner? Is he a nickel? What is, is he a safety? Like, what actually is this guy? And those dudes end up being just major, major difference makers for their teams. And the Detroit Lions, and of course, with the Philadelphia Eagles this last season. And Aaron Glenn does come over from Detroit, where he did coach Branch. What do you make? To me, it feels early for Jahdae Barron to be taking him there.
Of course. Of course, it's early, especially when here's the thing, man. Everyone's like Nickelback and stuff, but we saw him walk outside and have a good season, a great season. He won the Thorpe Award outside.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that kind of should moot a lot of that conversation. Um, and here's the thing: is you bring up Glenn, and I think the easy attachment to Glenn, and I think it's sort of lazy. I get it. I think it's sort of lazy, kind of like the Trevor Lawrence needs to have Tedero McMillan in Jacksonville at 5 because because he's got Brian Thomas and they're both 6'4", and in college he had Justin Ross and T Higgins and all these guys that were 6'4". He
And
needs
Liam
that.
Cohen's coming from Tampa, and this guy
and
looks like Mike Evans. It's like
and
it's
and
kind
all
of
that's
low
like
hanging fruit.
baseline stuff that everyone falls and leans into. And I think for the Barron conversation, the easy attachment is Glenn in Detroit last year had Branch as a second rounder and took Terry and Arnold in the first round, and it really helped their back end. And now we see the Jets obviously have Sauce Gardner. They got good back end, but they need another corner. Um, who doesn't really matter. The other corner that departed in free agency this year, but his name is blanking me. DJ Reed. He
Reed.
left in free agency, so the door's open for that spot. And Jody Barron. I mean, Jody Barron and Sauce Gardner. Are you kidding me? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? That's pretty sick. So I love that. But again, you're talking about a 7th overall pick for a guy that many have classified as like, and this is my problem. Again, like I said, I think he went outside, he won the Thorpe Award, he proved he could do it. But you still have guys like DJ Daniel Jeremiah and Todd McShay saying that, teams passed on Cooper DeJean, teams passed on Brian Branch. So, we could be totally wrong here. And it's like, no, we shouldn't be totally wrong here because they were wrong there. But this guy went outside and proved he could play outside consistently. So
No, I get it. I
I
get it.
I could see him going to 7, but then I could also say I could see him going at 27.
Well, the reason why, and people might be like, well, but Alex, Cody, what? Why can like I see I see some areas in this draft where I feel like there's going to be little runs, right? Or there's spots where it's just a matter of like there's a run of teams like from 10 that really from 8. The Panthers ain't taking him, right? The Saints aren't taking him. The Bears they're not taking him. The 49ers could take him at 11, I think.
Yeah.
But the Cowboys aren't taking him. The Dolphins aren't. The Dolphins maybe could take him with all the Jalen Ramsey stuff swirling, right? But I don't view it as very likely. The Colts, they're not going to take him. Falcons need edge rush. They're going to go edge rush. The Cardinals could take Jade at 16. Um, the Bengals, they're not taking him. The Seahawks are not. The Seahawks just need interior offensive line. They're not taking him. The Buccaneers, the Buccaneers need a starting inside linebacker. They're not taking him. The Broncos, no way. Steelers,
Steelers could take Jade.
I think
100%.
that's where it starts to open up here, man. Steelers, Chargers, Packers, right?
Vikings.
Texans at 25. It's like these are all spots where he can go. It feels like it opens up more in that 20 to 25 range for teams where it's a team and talent fit and need, right? Team, need, talent, fit. So I think if he doesn't go at 7, I could see it outside chance at 11 or 16. But I think after that, we're going to be on kind of Jade watch from 20 to 25.
All right. So give me like I know we're pre-recording this before we've put in our official mocks. But if I just asked you right here, right now, going in, what team feels like the best possible fit for each one of these guys in the first round?
I like Green Bay for Jade Barron. I
Okay.
think it makes sense. I've talked about it on our roster watch show, but I think that those guys passed on Cooper DeJean last year when I thought that they should have taken him. They ended up going with Jared Morgan from Arizona at offensive line. Um, I just they as far as Green Bay. So let's just see here. I want to look at what the odds are as far as their their picks. So right now they have an implied probability of taking a cornerback with their first pick in the draft of 27%. That is second in the odds, only behind defensive line. And this comes at a spot in the draft where all the good defensive line players are now off the board, right? If we're not, unless we're considering a guy like Donovan Ezraku or something like this as defensive line. Whenever I'm considering more of these, I'm considering that more of if a Kenneth Grant falls there, that could be an issue for Jade Barron, right? Um, if somehow a Walter Nolan were to fall, I don't think he will. Um, I think it all comes together to where it's a guy on their board. I think he had a top 30 visit with the Packers. Just it just it makes some sense to me. I mean, they've lost Eric Stokes. He moved on to it's like Stokes is now with the Raiders. So just everything lines up to me. I think he goes 23 to the Packers.
All right, I'm going to go 21 to Pitt. I think 21 to Pittsburgh. They got Darius Slay, who again is well into his 30s. He's bounced around now from Philly to Pitt this past year. They took a shot on Corey Trice a couple of years ago in the 7th round from Purdue, a longer guy. They obviously have Joey Porter Jr. at corner, and then they added Brendan Eccles from the Jets that we just talked about in the nickel spot. So I think that Jade can play nickel or outside in year one, and he can flip flop. If Slay's got to come off the field, he can go outside. Eccles isn't that great; he can go inside. Things like this, and I think he just feels like a good Pittsburgh guy. So I'm going to go Pittsburgh at 21. Well, for Banks, I think mine just straight up has always been the Bears. I just think he just plugs in right there at left tackle and you just be done with it. I know some people have differing thoughts of like he's going to be a guard or you got to give Kieran Omegadejie or Braxton Jones an opportunity at left tackle there. But I just think you don't pass up on a guy like this. It's like Mike Zimmer said, you can never have too many defensive backs. You can never have too many edge rushers. You can never have, too many good to great offensive linemen. It's just one of those things.
No, I get it. I think it'd be fine. The only sticking point with me and the Bears is that they have a decent left tackle in Braxton Jones, right? I mean, he's not
Decent.
yeah, he's not terrible. They've done a lot of work to retool the interior of that offensive line, and they have their first. Why am I blank? Darnell Wright. Am I
Yep.
blank?
Right
Yeah.
tackle. Yep.
So first round pick from not this. Was he from last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago over at the right tackle. It's like you get your two first round. I mean, two first round tackles for Caleb Williams feels nice.
Do you think that? So I'm just coming to this thought right now. Do you think that potentially they could be a team that you have to really view Kelvin Banks as like that much of a step up to take him there when you have a Braxton Jones in the room? Do you think that's potentially they just like, he's not that much better than Braxton Jones, so we just stay with Braxton Jones? Is that kind of why the Tyler Warren stuff has come out so heavy? You think?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think so, but I also think that both Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, the two coordinators from Detroit, are going to come to their new situations, right? With Ben Johnson being the new head coach for the Bears, Aaron Glenn being the new head coach um, for the Jets, and think like they had to have seen the way that Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions GM Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell built that team, and it was through the offensive line.
Yeah.
That was kind of the way that they started this whole thing. So I don't know. I think that Tyler Warren would be such a interesting, good fit there for him. Sort of be the answer to Sam Laporta there in the NFC North, and Ben Johnson's offense, of course, who presided over the Sam Laporta rookie year breakout there in Detroit. So we'll see what happens. Man, I can't wait to watch it all. So what about Golden?
Well, what's yours for Banks?
Mine is, I talked about it earlier, but it's the Miami Dolphins.
Okay, so you're going to stick with where you got him mocked. All right. Golden, to be honest with you, it's not going to happen, but it's the Cardinals. It's not going to happen. We've been told it's not going to happen, but at 16 to the Cardinals is my favorite landing spot for NFL purposes. Number 2 in a stretch role opposite of Marvin Harrison Jr. With Trey McBride. I think that just elevates that Arizona offense. It gives Golden an opportunity to, again, not have to be the alpha in the offense, but being able to just play on turf indoors. It's just, I don't want to say it's the Hollywood Brown factor, but you kind of get that Hollywood Brown factor connected back with Kyler Murray, like they had back in college. So I love Matthew Golden with the Cardinals. Don't think he goes there, but I love that spot.
Where do you think are so the earliest he comes off the board would be 12 to the Cowboys, right?
Correct. And the
And
latest
then
I'd say was Commanders at 29.
yeah, somewhere in there. Could we so Cardinals, I think Seahawks are live to
I
take
think the
it
Broncos are live.
after losing after losing DK Metcalf. They did of course bring in Cooper Cup, and so that would be a gosh for like fantasy and stuff like that. It'd be that feel wouldn't feel great to have him competing for targets with Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Cup and in a Mike McDonald led team that wants to win playing good defense and running the football is what they've been talking about this year. I think I guess the Broncos could be live. Could the Packers? I would think the Packers could be live, but they just don't take wide receivers in the first round. The Texans are live, the Rams are live, and the Commanders are live at 29. So I think you're exactly right. For like fantasy and stuff like that, I think my favorite thing would be for him to go to the Bills at 30, though.
Mm.
Right? You could see it if he fell that far. I think he would
Gives you
become.
that Diggs vibe.
Yeah, dude. I think he would become the number one wide receiver there for Josh Allen. Like,
One
like,
more question before we get out of here. Non Texas related, but we haven't talked about Igbuka on any of our shows.
I don't think he's going to go in the first round. What are his odds to go first round?
I don't know, but McShay was talking about him yesterday or the day before. He's like and Lance was too. Lance was saying he's going to go in the first round, and I was like,
Emeka Egbuka minus 300 to go in the first round. Huh.
Houston Texans flat circle. Houston Texans flat circle.
I'm wondering if that's crazy.
Houston Texans flat circle. I'm doing it.
You're sending him to the Texans, huh?
I'm doing it.
Well, I don't know. I think that look, we're going to see 3 Longhorns come off the board tonight. Cody, before we get out, any big predictions? Anything? Any like team fit? Anything that? What would you love to see coming out of tonight? It doesn't have to be the Longhorns. It can be anything. You want to see a big trade? Somebody you want to see Shadur fall out of the first round? Like what? Something you would love to see.
My wife would tell you that one thing that I love is chaos.
Okay.
And so I'll say the same thing I said on another pod this week. I said on RotoWire, a chaos play would be all these teams are playing chicken for quarterback after Cam Ward goes number 1 overall. All these teams play chicken for quarterback, and nobody takes one. Milrow is the second quarterback drafted with the first pick in the second round. And so everyone falls through. And then tomorrow we're sitting here talking and we're like, well, who's going to go with the 33rd pick? Who's going to go? Who's going to go? It's like, well, Shador's there. And it's Milrow. So I'm going to go all the quarterbacks fall through round 1 except for Cam Ward.
I can't top that. I can't top the chaos. Now, you can email us, fwfemails@gmail.com. You can find Cody on X at Cody Carpentier. I'm Alex Dunlap, NFL over there on the X machine. And we're here every night, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, whenever we're doing regular stuff and we're not traveling. Not sure exactly when they're going to post this later on, but yeah, we're usually here 6 to 7. We just always ask you for 4 things. 1, please like the show. Please subscribe to the channel. Please tell a friend about the show. And 4, if you dig the show and it's your first time watching, just come back and watch again, man. We're here every day, and we can't thank you guys enough for helping this show grow. It is Christmas in April. We get to open our presents here in a minute. We get to find out what these team fits are. We know you're as excited as we are. We live for this stuff, man. So thanks for being here with us. Thanks for taking this ride with us. All right. Love you guys, man. God bless you. Enjoy the draft. For Cody, I'm Alex. We're done.